Hello. Says we're live, Dr. Bruce.
We're alive.
So, I'm Dr. Toni Reilly, Australia's #1 past life and reincarnation specialist, and Dr. Bruce is America's hypnotherapist to the stars with more than 50 years experience. We're here to help you uncover the mysteries of life through diving deep into our confidential files to discover what, why, and how of past lives, reincarnation, and life after death. We encourage you to get involved in the conversation with us. You can post your questions with your name because we can't see everyone who's posting, but please post away in the comments. And after we have a discussion about is karma a con job, we will get to answering your questions. So let's start with Dr. Bruce, where are you coming to us from today?
From Huntington Beach, California.
Yay. And I'm coming to you this week from the capital of Australia, which is Canberra. So go ahead and post your questions in the comments and we will see them a little bit later. Even before your questions, do tell us where you're joining us from. We'd love to know. And hello, Richard. Good to have you here with us. And
Where are you from?
Where are you from? Yeah.
Where are you from? No, maybe he didn't hear us.
There might be a little lag in it coming through, but yeah, let us know where you're from, Richard. Now, we're just getting started in our live stream. So Kentucky. Hello, Peter from Kentucky, and Richard's from Missouri.
The Bluegrass State.
And Paula's from Indiana.
Sure. Hi, Peter. One of my clients.
Fantastic. Everyone's here from the States so far. This evening, it's your Thursday evening. Here in Australia, it's Friday lunchtime. I mean, not Friday, it's Monday lunchtime. Gosh. Okay, well, it's great to have you.
Indiana, the Hoosier State.
Hoosiers, go Hoosiers.
Woo! You're welcome, Peter. Okay, so we're streaming here in the YouTube channel, and we're also streaming to our Facebook groups. So we should, an 8-ish second delay, Richard says. Okay, that's not so bad. So what we're going to do is we're going to get started, because there will be this will stay up so that you can watch it later as well. We've got Mark from Quebec in Canada. Hello, home of Donald Sutherland. Fantastic. Oh, here's Country House. Yay. Okay, so Dr. Bruce, can you open our talk today with an explanation of what you mean by is karma a con job?
The con job. Okay. Have you ever considered that maybe, just maybe, past life karma is one big con job? And I can hear some of you out there right now. Heresy, abomination, hang him from a yardarm, burn him at the stake. Well, hear me out. Just hear me out. Then you can hang me from a yardarm. Karma seems a very human idea. As humans, we love tit for tat, don't we? Karmic comeuppance, divine justice, We want to think Hitler, Genghis Khan, Charlie Manson, Crazy Charlie, Ted Bundy, and most of all, that person who invented autocorrect are getting their just desserts. Well, maybe. Then again, maybe not. See, as we know, one theory holds that those who do evil in this life will pay for their transgressions by undergoing what they inflicted on others in the next life. That's the classic concept of karma. The murderer is murdered, the torturer is tortured, the swindler is swindled, the cheater is cheated on. So when we consider those who are suffering, they may actually be people who made others suffer. in a previous lifetime. See, the problem with statements like this is that they require what I call objective morality, or a specific entity to mete out those punishments. Who decides what's good or bad? Who decides what's punishable, what isn't? And how would the evildoer even be punished after death, when there no longer be a human consciousness, there's no longer be a body to feel the punishment? When would the punishment end, if at all? And it would end, right? I mean, certainly no crime is worth punishment forever. One theory holds that there is no accountability beyond what is called a life review. Now, the life review, I'm sure some of you would know that, it's a moment-by-moment review of one's earthly incarnations conducted between lives. Now, in that scenario, one experiences their life stories as perceived by those with whom they interacted in that life, meaning that if they caused someone hurt, then they get to experience that hurt that they caused, every one of them. But also, if there was a blessing to someone, the soul gets to experience that feeling too, often to their surprise and amazement. Then we have those accounts of how everyone who has ever committed an act of evil will experience it on the other side. During their life review, every rapist, killer, maimer experiences what it's like to be raped, killed, maimed, and they see it firsthand. They experience it firsthand as if they were the victim. Okay, that's one theory. Another theory holds that there is no more karma, a negative or positive, attached to human life than there is for an actor portraying a movie villain or a hero. I want you to think of the last film you saw where there were incredibly evil people doing incredibly evil things. Or maybe the Silence of the Lambs might be one that I'm thinking of right now. While we were waiting to start this broadcast tonight, we all started in what's called the backstage, and that's what it says on this app, backstage. And I think the backstage of being on this app is comparable to the afterlife, to home, to our life between lives. And on stage, which we are now in a matter of being, is comparable to our life being on stage. Now, I want you to think of what happened. If I use that analogy, think about what happened when the lights came on or when the director called cut and the actors left the set. No one chased after them. No one hauled them off to jail. They were playing the role of someone evil. Even the actors on stage know who they really are off stage. Actors, right? Many people associate reincarnation with karma. But there's no necessary linkage between those two ideas. And many reincarnation systems do not include the philosophy of karma that we know from Hinduism, Buddhism, other Indic religions, and also from Theosophy. Since many religions and belief systems acknowledge reincarnation without karma, it seems clear that karma may not be a necessary corollary of reincarnation. But we can take that one step further. We can take that to the further step of asking whether we see evidence for karma operating in reincarnation cases. And maybe, just maybe, karma is a philosophical or religious idea without any scientific basis or foundation. I want you to think about something, if you will. Of the more than 2,500 cases that Ian Stevenson studied, out of the more than 1,500 cases that Helen Wambach studied. So right there, we have 25, it's 5,000, 4,000 cases right there. And all those cases that Peter Ramster studied. And in Stevenson's case, only 4 of them in which karma was thought to be involved. And those were cases with congenital physical abnormalities. None of the other researchers that I've named saw evidence of karma. So perhaps, just perhaps, we all go through the length and breadth of human existence just to explore the human condition. Maybe on the other side, when we're off stage, we shake hands, have a cocktail or 2 or 3 with those who we persecuted, and we talk about how we all played our individual roles and what we learned from them. Like in the words of the mortal bard, Shakespeare, all the world's a stage, and all the men and woman really plays. Each have their exits and their entrances, and one man in his time plays many parts. Well, that was my 2 cents. 4 cents, considering for inflation. Throwing it back to you, Toni.
Thanks, Dr. Bruce. Throwing it back to me, yes, well, I really enjoy your take on karma. It's really quite in line with my discoveries as well. And I do love the way that you describe it. So please, if anyone has any comments or questions, do go ahead and put them in the chat. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about, or I'm going to read actually what I wrote about karma in my book, Awake the Purpose of Life and Why You Are Here. Dr. Bruce most likely wrote about karma in his book. Didn't you, Dr. Bruce?
I did indeed. I have a whole chapter devoted to that, and because karma is such a complex subject, I call that chapter "The Complexities of Karma."
Oh, really? Okay. So that's great. And the name of your book, Your Journey Was Never Meant to End.
The journey was never meant to
Dr.
end.
Bruce's book on Amazon.
Or your journey was never meant to end. A compelling case for reincarnation.
Right. Good. Love it. Okay, we're going to go ahead and put your comments and questions, and we'll get to those shortly. I'm going to read a little passage on karma from my book now, and it goes like this. Karma is neither payback or punishment. It facilitates the option to experience all sides of any human situation. In this case, to accept the parent as they are. Through acceptance, we navigate challenging moments as an opportunity to learn by experience as a willing participant, not a victim. The student role does not mean that we must forgive or condone cruel, humiliating, vindictive, disturbing, or heartbreaking things that have happened. However, if we are unable to eventually reach acceptance for each challenge, it is unfortunately we who will suffer the emotions, not the offender. So insofar, I wrote that in context in my book about choosing parents, particularly parents that may not have been the loveliest parents. And I mean, we have all different circumstances in our lives. So karma, just know it's not for payback. I see Karen's here from South Africa. Hello. I also want to talk a little bit more about karma, and then we'll be throwing over to your questions. Dr. Bruce and I will answer them. So for now, please excuse me. For now, let's do this. So karma is not retribution for past life deeds. It represents the opportunity to experience life from all angles. And the payback theory is human inspired, just like all fears. No human concepts exist when the soul is not inhabiting a body. Free will is a human concept, but we'll talk about that in another show. Our lives are pre-planned with laser precision by our soul, and we are born to live exactly as destined. It's informative and mostly important, accurate answers that come from connecting with the soul.
The question that I always ask is, if you look at this payback, who's being paid back? The body's gone. Is rotted, is burned, is whatever. Is the soul being paid back? And is the soul responsible for that?
Yes.
Yeah. The soul didn't perform those particular heinous acts or even the good acts. It's the body, but it's the body that the soul. I hate to use this term, that the soul possessed at the time that did these acts.
That's right. And in that context, something that I've come to say is what goes on earth stays on earth. And this is what happens with, I guess, karma as cause and effect is maybe going to come back to bite you within the lifetime if you're cranky. Maybe the kids are not going to want to be around you if you're a cranky parent, for example. But as far as the soul paying back for things it's done before, it simply just does not work like that. I notice, Dr. Bruce, that Hype Punk, hello there, says that she became more fascinated with karma around the time of her near-death experience in 2017. You are welcome to share a little more about that in the comments and we can have a little discussion about it. I know when you have a near-death experience, we talk of those near-death experiences as a spontaneous visit to the in-between life space, where we call those facilitated near-death experiences without nearly dying. But it would be interesting to hear what you were told about near-death experience or about karma within your near-death experience.
Well, hold on. Peter Taylor brought up a couple of good points here. In one, he said he doesn't think Stephen saw it as a karma per se, and he didn't. I thought he believed it was due to trauma affecting the energy body as the soul exited the body. Yeah, it's trauma affecting the energy body, which I guess in those cases where there were physical marks on the body of those who had been murdered, the energy body at that point is affecting the physical body or the next physical body. So I don't think that has anything to do with, I don't think you can construe that as karma. I suppose you could make an argument that it is, but I don't think so. And he also asked, do you think our souls are in process? Are they growing through time? I posted on my group, I posted that short story that Andy Weil wrote. It's a very short story called The Egg. And then I remember, and I first posted it years ago, and so I found it again. I don't know what possessed me to do it, but I put it on up there again. Got a lot of reaction to it. Then I went and I found a video. There's several videos that were produced around that story of the egg, but they expanded on the video. And I went and I posted that on my group. So if you just, it's a 12-minute video. When you get a chance, go and watch that video. And I think that question is entertained right there about whether our souls are growing through time. It's answered very, very nicely by the actors in that video of how we do grow through time, our souls. So I'm just going to throw that out there. When you get a chance, go to the group, read the short story, okay, and then watch the video. Very well produced, by the way, very professionally produced. And it's humorous too in a way, but it's longer. Like it's 12 minutes, so they expanded on that, I guess, with the Andy Weil's permission.
Okay. Where can we find that link?
On my group.
Okay, in your group.
Reincarnation, past lives, and the afterlife.
Yeah.
So
okay.
If these people are watching this, they're either watching it on my group or your group, and I think I posted it into your group too, Toni. They have to be watching it on one of our groups.
Okay.
I believe I did. I shared that video, that 12-minute video of the egg on your group. And I also earlier shared the short story.
Right.
So they'll
okay.
find it. Whatever group you belong to.
So within the group. Okay. Brilliant. Gosh. And I'm just reading through these comments here. Loving your comments.
Yeah.
Let's see. Kevin Black has asked, how does reincarnation fit into the heaven concept?
Okay. And also one here says, thank you, karma was just, yeah, karma is cause and effect. It's tantamount to Newton's third law of, I think is it the third law of thermodynamics? The law of cause, that's the law of cause and effect. I believe it is. So it is cause and effect.
And this is what hippie punk discovered in her near-death experience. That's what she's sharing there, which is great. There's no right or wrong. It's all about co-experiencing life with the Creator. Richard, I am most inclined to agree with you there. There are the polarities in life, right or wrong, good or bad, should or shouldn't. They're all truly for the human experience, rather than they don't carry over into the afterlife or when we pass over from this particular body that we are a spirit of at the moment. What has Kevin said here? Hello, Vani, watching from Sweden. Great, lovely to have you. So we've got people from across the globe, which is wonderful. So Kevin Black says the construct of time doesn't exist as we know it, but simultaneously time expands throughout multiple dimensions.
We'll be getting into that, I think, in a few weeks, aren't we, Tony? Is it possible to reincarnate into the past? Going to be subject.
Yeah, we will talk about that in another whole show, because it's pretty. Well, maybe it's not as complex as we think, but something we can discuss in depth. What else have we got here? Paula, if there is karma and it continues, actually, I can show this up here.
Oh, yeah.
If there's karma and it continues with the same two people life after life, when does it stop? Doesn't make sense. I believe I now agree with you, Bruce. I think that rather than seeing it as karma or payback within the dynamics of two people, again, it comes back to that you're experiencing all sides of a coin or a relationship.
Mm.
Maybe sometimes you're the male in the relationship, maybe sometimes you're the female, or anything like that.
I think it stops when you've learned everything you need to learn or experienced everything you need to experience. And last week we discussed that, and I said that I felt that whether you use the word learn or experience, in experiencing, you cannot help but learn.
Yes, indeed. But what's interesting when we do past life regression with people is that they will see themselves in a lifetime, or maybe more than one, when they recall it, and they'll see that they're doing something very similar to what they're doing now, and it helps them understand their now more. So I think it's still not that they came back this time to pass the test again, but they will understand what the purpose behind having that experience is. So, for example, I'll give an example since we're talking a little about relationships. So perhaps you feel particularly jealous of a certain partner in this lifetime, and you might seek out regression to find out why is this affecting you, because it's a hard burden to carry, feeling insecure and hyper jealous. So what they might see is where they've been either the opposite, the person who the partner was jealous of, or different dynamics, but the same emotions going on. And yeah, so it's really just another chance to experience.
There's probably a set number of things that they agree to experience or to learn if their relationship is to continue from life to life. Like you said, get over jealousy. He learns to take out the garbage when she asks him to do it, and so on and so forth. And when all those items are checked off, then they can move on.
Or you just come back with different energies, different dynamics, different relationships, son and daughter. There's so many opportunities to come here and do the emotions. What have we got here? Peter said his first exposure to a comprehensive explanation of reincarnation was from Theosophy. They claim that we're all evolving into more complex and refined beings, basically to infinity. I think that basically to infinity. I don't know how refined we get as humans. It's certainly starting to change a bit now, but I think in the course of humanity's evolution, we really, a lot of the time it just comes down to that we can have a human experience here. What do we do with it? Are we nice to one another? Or, of course, there's been a lot of violence throughout humanity. So all of the different experiences, they were all meant to be too. They're part of the evolution of humanity, so that we as a people throughout each decade experience life as a person, life as a human. Yeah. Let me see what else. Looking at your questions, we are, or your comments. Do share them. And Mark has said, let's see what Mark said. I'm going to put it up here. Oops. We're all linked. So whatever happens, we carry it on for as long as it takes to resolve whatever issues we might have. It doesn't have to be forever. It's a little bit that it doesn't necessarily carry over. That's almost what we're saying, is that karma gives us this thought that we are coming to learn a lesson and resolve an issue, and if we don't get it, we're coming back again to do it. But it's not actually like that. Not the way that it's shown to me in my transcendent experiences and through when people are having their past lives. Each lifetime has its own set of, I guess, learnings or experiences, we call them. It has its own set of experiences, and when that life is done, the whole thing's done. So the next life is a fresh start. It's a fresh life. It's a fresh.
Continue over from the previous life. Now, what needs to be learned, if you want, what needs to be experienced from the previous life may be taken up again several lifetimes down the road. We could have lifetimes in between where we just decide to do something else, where we decide to take a pass, where we decide to take a vacation. You know?
Where we decide to take, we're going to not incarnate this time.
Exactly. When we remember when we were, I don't know what you did in Australia, but when I was a kid, on your birthday, then I went to a Catholic school. Then the nun said, "Oh, you don't have to do. You get a vacation from your homework on your birthday." Okay, and so equate homework with learning something and not having to do it because it's your birthday. Maybe it's the same in between lives and from lifetime to lifetime. You're at a point where whoever is in charge, or your guides or the council, says, you know, you did pretty good. And I know it might have been pretty tough the last couple of lifetimes. Take a break.
And, well, I guess in that case, when people go to in-between lives, they might note that someone from their soul family is there, but they're not with them this time. So maybe you could see them, those are the ones taking a break, or that one. But that's all subjective, because you have to have a little visit to meet them.
To work on karmically to work on, because the soul group may have already planned out the next several lives, the next 10 lives. It may have to wait a couple of thousand years. What was a couple of thousand years when you're dealing with it? Right?
Timeless there, isn't it? Dr. Bruce Peter has said that it's an interesting observation. So let's talk just a little bit more about the mission of the individual lifetime being resolved, or the experience being complete within that lifetime. If we could talk a little bit about the cycle of life. Of course, we're born with our predestined mission or plan or purpose, which is every day of every life, every minute of our lifetime. So we have birth. The next major turning point, of course, we have many, many experiences through our life, but the major turning point is then grief. at whatever stage that comes in for one, where we really, truly, maybe for the first time even, start to question, is there more to life than this life? Because maybe in grief we've experienced death or heartbreak, and it makes us search for what's the reason, why are we really here? So there's that. And then after that, of course, we end up making our way towards death. But generally, before people pass in this lifetime, and we see it every time they go through a past life, is they know what they were supposed to overcome, or what the mission was of the life that was just led. And it's not about gaining success or being famous or having a big impact on people.
Yeah.
It's not a particular moment of success in life. It's about the emotions that are felt throughout the life, and not about a one destination. The mission's not one thing that we're meant to achieve. So it's very interesting, isn't it? And I think it's very misunderstood.
I
Yeah.
think a mission, there's a life purpose and there's a soul purpose. The life purpose is what we're meant to do during that particular lifetime. But the soul purpose it's kind of expanded. It can be similar to the life purpose, but it might be something that encompasses dozens, if not thousands of lifetimes.
Yeah. Yeah. That's true. And Peter has said they're self-contained. I really like that term. Oh, I might remember that one and take it. It's good. It is self-contained into that life, into that, well, my life is Toni now and your life is Peter. And we've got an observation here from Kate. Hello, Kate. I'm just going to put it up on the screen. So Kate says, why do this all if we're already part of and return to one soul? If just experiencing, how are we helping? How and why did this begin? Whoa, I've got thoughts on that. Dr. Bruce, would you like to share your thoughts on this?
For the experience of it, why take a vacation and go to one place as opposed to another one? Because that's what that's what you want to experience. Now, I think every soul wants to experience. It's an individual soul, even though we all come from the same thing. They say we came from the Big Bang, 14 billion years ago. But I think the souls evolve differently. We have different wants, needs, the desires, certain maybe psychological makeup. I don't know. I think the jury's out on that. But I think we all have different things that we want to experience throughout our existences, and that's why we do it. Maybe do you ever think that we do it for the fun of it?
Well, you know what? That's not that out there, because life, if we live life in, I guess, a joyous capacity, there's a lot of amazing things that we can only do in this body. So living is the purpose. And of course, part of living means we can have fun, which is experiencing joy and happiness, or just, being a little bit silly. And we get to experience touch, taste, sound.
There's certain things we do with our body.
Yeah.
This body is never going to run a 4-minute mile.
Do you mean yours?
What? Yeah, I said my body is never going to run a 4-minute mile. We saw that. But my soul says, well, yeah, wait till the next one. We'll have you running the 4-minute mile.
Well, maybe you've had one as a runner.
Like people, what's important to one person may not be important to another. What's important to one soul may not be important to another, and vice versa.
Yeah. But Kate, back to how are we helping if it's just for experiencing? I really think that, from what I've been told in those transcendent realms, it would seem, or the most easiest way I could put it in human terms, is that humanity is an experiment, but literally so that we can experience it. Because when we have pure soul energy, we just simply don't have the means to do that. We don't have a mind which thinks, and we don't have a body that feels the sensations that our body has.
Yeah, Kevin brought up something.
And the other thing further to that is once the soul's already pure and it's all enlightened, it's already everything, and we'll return to that every time that we leave a body. So it's certainly not for the soul to grow,
Well,
at least not in my observations.
Kevin brought up an interesting point. One thing we don't realize is the soul isn't in just one body, but splits itself off in infinite dimensions, collecting infinite experiences and reporting back to the oversoul. We are points of awareness. That is a theory, and I think personally, I think it's a viable theory that we exist. Of course, now, okay, again, we're getting into alternate universal or parallel dimensions, but so that's a good point. Yeah, I think we do exist in many different ways at the same time, in many different bodies at the same time. And that's parallel.
Yes. So when on the show, when we go on and talk about is it all happening at once, then we can go into that in a much deeper way. What Kevin's talked about there. Make sure you join us for that, Kevin. It'll probably be in a few shows' time. Let's see what else we're saying here. Hello, Sandy. I'm just reading here. Mark says, just to help us getting through whatever we have to uncover between us. Yeah. Let's see what Sandy says here. My understanding is there's no such thing as karma. It's all about each lifetime learning how to raise our frequencies. Well, raise our frequencies is, I suppose, one way to look at it. But yes, sure. The basis of it is that any sort of cause and effect is contained within that lifetime. Or in this case, the one that we're all living at the moment. Yes. So I have another question here. It's a bit of a karma question, and it's quite loaded because potentially not us who are on this call today, but it's something that a lot of people ask. And this person asked about the millions who died under Hitler, and not just that, but in world wars.
Yes.
Was he personally owed any karma? And how do we reconcile mass murder during wars to karmic debts or lessons? So my response to this question is from a therapeutic perspective. And the truth is, there is purpose to every life that we reincarnate into. And I know that in sessions where people have recalled being gassed or even soldiers who gassed people, there's a purpose to every single one of their lifetimes, even in those atrocities. And it might be that these are the things that I'm remembering some people have said. They'll be told it was to learn to surrender, or it was to learn courage. These are the types of things that people are told was the purpose of those lifetimes. So I think what we do on a whole is look at these atrocities and think, how could it be? Why would this happen? Who would plan to do this? But there is a higher perspective to all of these things, that if we do regression or go in between lives, or we meditate on it, we can find those answers, and it stops being as harsh as it seems once you see it from a higher perspective.
Think of it this way. If it just occurred to me, if there never was a Hitler, there would have never been a Schindler.
Precisely. That's a great point. Yes. Yeah. And of course, I think that one thing that I know from working with people in this life is our perception of everything comes from our perspective. So, for example, given that I'm not in a wheelchair in this lifetime and I have freedom of movement, one who isn't in a wheelchair might think that could be the worst thing possible. Yet if you speak to someone who is, they may see it in a completely different way. And the other thing is, even if they're born that way, they've never known anything different. So they're actually doing something different than what we think. So perspective is a big thing on all of the potential circumstances that we endure. Hello, Rocco. Hello, Peggy.
Rocco made a good point. Is it that, oh, good question. Is it that in one life you may play the oppressor, then in the next life you play the victim to absolve karma? I believe it is so. I think to experience life from both sides of the coin.
Yeah. And this is a good point, because this is the type of thing that would bring someone for past life regression, because, well, first thing is they maybe think that they have been bad in a past life. That's why this life is tricky. It's not the case, but they find that out when they come for regression. But certainly, maybe not to absolve karma per se, but certainly to have the experience of being an oppressor or a victim. The oppressor. Yeah. Very interesting. Let's see. We've got a comment here by Mark. Let's just put this up a sec. So Mark said, so many souls want to come back here because it is such an overwhelming experience. If we can find our way out of all the fuss that we have to deal with. I think that the grander purpose for when we come back is not at play. And then when we're here, it is hard here. It's certainly the heaviest place that we reincarnate, or the school of experience that we reincarnate. I know when people recall being in other places, other than Earth. Other than Earth. It seems to be much easier. So we're on the harsh planet here where we're incarnated. Hard. And what, Rocco, what have you said here? Oh, no, sorry, I already read that. Kevin, I'm just reading your comment, Kevin. Kevin's made a comment here. I'm just going to put it up as I read it. We have no true understanding of good and evil. Our three-dimensional minds perceive our experiences as good or bad, but the goal should be focusing on the lesson in the experience rather than labeling it. Or if there is a lesson within that lifetime, yeah, experience it rather than, I guess, feeling a victim of a label. It's three-dimensional. Is us as a human. Our human minds perceive the experiences as good or bad, but they're really just an experience.
Peggy brought up an interesting point here. I want to answer it from a different perspective than probably what she's
this
thinking.
One?
What role does free will have in reconciling these concepts? I'm going to look at it from the perspective of free will and whether we choose to incarnate or not. What most people report in the past life regressions is that we can choose to opt out, to defer, to put off I'm going to call it a problematic journey if they don't think they can handle it, meaning their soul doesn't think they can handle it. So let's say, the idea of choosing a particular action or an energy is reported in research, that we choose to have this experience. And we may be in a situation where, like, our guides, our counsel may tell us, why don't you try, in a period, why don't you try one where you experience exactly what you did to others? And then we say, that's a great idea, count me in, okay, I'm all in on that one. Or we may say that, I don't know if I'm ready for that. I think I want to skip that. Then you may say, the soul may say, using their free will, the free will of the soul, they may be going over their previous lifetime with the counsel or those spirit guides who say, look, I'm done, I'm finished. I think I can graduate now. I've been there, done that, got this T-shirt, done everything, experienced everything I should have. Time for me now to become a guide. I want to move up. And the counsel may say, I'm not so fast. Not so fast. Let's take a look at those lessons that you claim you've learned. And then they show us how what we thought we learned, we really didn't learn. And so we may be gently prodded into trying it again. And so in that way, we do have free will. I think we have the free will whether to incarnate or to not incarnate at a particular time. But I think most of us choose. I think almost all of us choose. We may not choose to incarnate every single time that we're given that opportunity. You know, we may beg, plead, and bargain to sit this one out, and maybe the guides of the council listens to us and has pity on us and lets us sit it out. But I think most of the time we do choose to come back and choose those lifetimes, and maybe to pick a particularly hard lifetime, a difficult lifetime. And I brought up this point last week. Why would you choose? Why would you choose to have a particularly hard lifetime and call that your karma to, I don't know, to come back with disease, infirm, paraplegic all your life? Because there's a point to it. Okay, you might have something to learn, something to experience, and it's not going to last an eternity. It's going to last 60, 70, 80 Earth years, but in the framework of the eternity, it's over like that. In the blink of an eye, it's over. And so we decide, okay, count me in, I'll do it.
I love to talk about free will. Thank you, Dr. Bruce. Peggy, so I would like to comment on free will. What role does free will have in reconciling these concepts? I probably like to talk about free will as a human experience, because you only have will with a mind. It's part of our mind. It's where we control and use our willpower. So free will is a human concept. And how does it play its role in reconciling the concepts? Well, as a soul, I think that free will, perhaps you can look at it as we choose to come back or not. And Kevin's also commented here, what happens to the ones that don't choose? Well, the soul energies, we're always part of that, whether we're incarnated or not. So I guess if you want to look at it as divine will as free will, I like that, Rocco. If you want to look at it as taking a break, perhaps you can, but really you're there as soul energy anyway. I think free will sometimes is used by us as people to evade a shitty experience that we're having, and this thought that we either made the wrong decision. By free will, we made the wrong decision, and that's why we're in this trouble or why we're in this relationship. I think it just gives us this idea that we do have some control over our life and what we're doing and what's happened, or maybe to evade responsibility for the choices that we made. It's like, ooh, free will. I can choose not to be connected with that person who I had a terrible relationship with. But actually, what you're really doing here is understanding why you had that relationship, why those circumstances played out, why the experience was so hard or hurtful. So that's more what happens, even if you think you can choose to evade it or take a different path. You will never, ever, ever be off path. You're only ever going the way that your life was planned to go. So divine will versus human will, Rocco says here. I guess that's choosing there or choosing here, yeah. Gosh, I'm sorry, I'm just reading another Peggy's comment here. Let's have a look at it, Dr. Bruce. I'm going to put you back on here. If free will is a human concept, so is the concept of judgment. That's true. Who are these guides that offer opportunities to reincarnate it? Who gave them the authority? I think that it's all, this is my belief from what I've seen, that reincarnation realm, which is the in-between lives. I feel like that's the space where reincarnation is talked about or takes place. That's even separate from our soul in a way, because the soul energy is really just everything but nothing. But this hierarchy, or that someone's over us and can help us choose what we're doing here, is also human inspired. So that in-between life space where people go and meet with the council or meet their soul family, it's all part of the human experience as well, even though it's transcendent. So it is where we're communicating with our soul who agreed, but it's still part of the human experience.
You say, who gave them the authority? I equate it to a corporate structure. Okay, think of a corporation. You've got the chairman of the board. That's God. Let's call him God, for want of another term. I don't think we get to see God until all of our incarnations are complete and we're ready to join with them. I think that the people who report seeing God in a near-death experience or in a between lives, I think they're fabricating it. It might be unintentional fabrication, but I don't believe they do. I think underneath that, then you've got your, if I again using the analogy of the corporate structure, underneath the chairman of the board, you got the board of directors, and then underneath that, you got advisors, you got the heads of different divisions, and these souls, if you will, who no longer need to incarnate. They may have at one time, but they become what we call ascended masters. They've been there, done that. They've learned all that they needed to learn. They experienced all that they needed to learn. They're the ones who have the authority. But it's not the authority that's going to make you do that. Again, we're getting back to free will. Let's look at this. Let's say when the life planning phase in between, and we say to the council or to our guide, I think I want to do something different this time around. And now a guy says, oh, wait a second. I know you too well. I know you better than you know yourself. You're just avoiding it. You're avoiding the inevitable. You're trying to worm your way out of a difficult journey. And you really need this lesson now. I'm telling you, you really need to do this now, because it's not going to come up again for thousands of years. Now, they may be talking about, our pals, the other people in the cast, our cast mates or our classmates who are all on their way back to this planet, but they have different plans. So I think that's a matter of free will on how they gently cajole us into doing something that our souls into doing something that we think we're not ready for, but we are. But we have the free will. We still have the free will to sit it out. They're not going to make it. They're not going to take you by the ear and drag you back down there. Come on, you're getting to the tunnel. You're going back down. They don't. But it may take you longer to evolve as a soul. If there is.
I think that this, who gave them the authority, Peggy, is again, the humanness in us needs to try and understand what we're doing here. So they need to believe that there is some sort of hierarchy, and just like there is on Earth as people. But really, when people go there into or directly communicating with their soul, they are the authority. Their soul is the authority of them. It's actually what chose what they're doing here. So there is no one really above our soul. We're all that energy. So the hierarchy or the perception that there's authority in that in-between phase is still part of trying to understand why we're here. But it certainly gives people a whole lot of peace when they go and visit that realm and find out, oh, yes, we chose to be here in this life and this is why. So, yeah, let's see. Now, we've got Vaniel. Excuse me if I've pronounced your name wrong. I'm going to put your comment up so that we can read it. What do you think is a matter when something inside of you is telling you that it feels like you had several past lives at the same time? Also known as living in several bodies during the same years. I'm going to say that I have regressed people who have been in different bodies, either in a crossover period like they're still alive in a different body when they're born into this life, for example. So I think this is probably something that we can discuss a lot when we talk about, is it all happening at once? But certainly it seems that a soul can be but I could be here in another body as well, somewhere else doing something else. And whether there's much purpose in that, I don't know, but certainly I've seen it come up when I've been regressing people. I mean, there's purpose in everything, but and really something that you come to know from working in these realms is energy can do anything. It's omnipresent and it can do anything. Good night, Peter. Oh, I am seeing comments that I've missed here. Let's have a look what we've got here. Hello, Elaine. Richard says love gave the authority, and let's see what else we've got here. Kevin Black's made a comment here. Let's see what he says. Edgar Casey says that there's nothing in no man's environment that can control his free will. There may be things that can influence but not control.
I agree.
Yeah.
There's always
but it feels like we have it. We don't.
There's always someone walks up to you on the street and sticks a gun in your ribs and says your money or your life. You got a choice. They may not be an attractive choice. One of those choices might not be attractive, but there's always a choice.
But I think the free will would come into where someone would think they could change that trajectory. If it was foreseen, for example, in their lifetime, and that free will could help them change it, it's going to give us a different outcome. But it doesn't work like that. So that's really interesting there, Kevin. Yeah. And what else have we got here? I'm thinking our time's nearly up. Gosh, it's always so fun. See, it goes so quick.
A lot of territory here tonight.
We did. Can we, as we start to wrap up this live, please can you join us next live, which is why don't children remember their past lives? So we'll get into that in a big way. It's really cool when we talk about children. I love it. And there's a lot of reference to it as well, both in our work and also a lot of research that people have done based on what kids said. Maybe your kids said something to you, and if they did, please come and tell us about those. They are the cutest stories. So we'll talk a bit about that. And also, I'm going to ask Dr. Bruce to do this as a bit of a because he's got such a radio voice. I'm going to ask him to do this little kind of an ad for our new podcast. So take it away, Dr. Bruce.
Also coming up on the Dr. Toni Reilly YouTube channel is the new podcast, Awake, The Purpose of Life, launching Thursday, February 15th in all the states and Friday, February 16th in Australia. Please subscribe to the channel so you don't miss it. The handle is at Dr. Toni Reilly. In the first show, host Dr. Toni Reilly is joined by her lovely daughter, Coco, to set the tone of our podcast in our launch episode. Coco asked to be regressed to a past life since she was 8. It didn't eventuate until she was 18, with mind-blowing results. You won't want to miss the details of the past lives she recalled and the issues that were healed.
Thank you, Dr. Bruce.
All right. Say there. What was that? Steve McGarrett, be there. Aloha.
So we are in, if you're watching this on the YouTube channel, this is where the podcast will be streamed. If you're watching on Facebook, then come subscribe to the YouTube channel so that you can see. But as Dr. Bruce just advertised in his beautiful radio voice, we will be, starting with Coco, we will be talking to a client each week about their past life, what they experienced, and also what they came for, what they came to address, and how it addressed it for them. So really wanting to help you understand how past life regression works. So that's where we'll start, and that podcast will go in lots of different arenas. Richard says he loves us both, and blessings. Thank you, Richard. It was wonderful to have you all. Thank you very, very much for joining us. We love having you here. It's lovely to have your comments. Dr. Bruce, if you want to be in touch with Dr. Bruce and see what he has on offer, he has a book, sessions, training at drkolosky.com. And for me, likewise, if you would like to do something with me, you can contact me at ToniReillyInstitute.com. That's the website. Or, of course, we're on all the social medias as well. Thank you so much for being here, and we shall see you same time next week.
Same time. Bye-bye.
Same place.